But anyway, let me hit you with the keys to victory, man. Let me give y'all the keys to victory, and then we'll go into another topic right here for the New Orleans Saints. Now, number one key to victory for the Saints. Number one, we got to control the line of scrimmage. That's number one. Control the line of scrimmage is big. If the Saints can win up front, both in run blocking and pass protection, it will keep Tyler Shuck clean, and he could be able to keep sustaining these drives that we've seen. On the positive side, the previous week, Carolina's defensive front, an elite unit. So physicality up front can wear those guys down. That's the point, like controlling in the line of scrimmage, winning in the trenches, offensively speaking. If we get Tolly back, we'll have Kelvin Banks Jr. on the left, Tolly on the right, even though he's a little banged up. Still having a half a Tolly is better than a full Hakeem Richards. It is just what it is. Even though no disrespect to Hakeem Richards, the man was playing as well as he possibly can play and has given us some good games when Tolly's not in there. But having Tolly's back there is cool. We just have to wrap up that ankle, man, and make sure, we don't have any other issues. Cesar Ruiz give him credit. Cesar Ruiz has played better. He still is a bit of a turnstile at times, but you can't take that away from him on the tape. The last week's tape in particular, he actually had a pretty decent, solid game. He was a little slow on the move to get blocks, to get to the next level to pick up the linebacker. But outside of that, he had a pretty solid game last week, right? Calling upon him and Fortner, who actually has been a pretty solid center for us since Eric McCoy has been down. And we got to make sure on the opposite side, Dylan Reduns is not false starting and he knows what he's doing. Dylan Reduns got to get his head in the game. But outside of that, the offensive line did a pretty special job in helping run the ball last week against the Buccaneers, opening up enough lanes for Devin Neal to make his stuff happen. Well, so you got to give him credit on that. Number two key to victory, of the 10 keys of victory for the Saints to beat the Panthers. Number two, they got to limit the Panthers' big plays. Carolina may try to hit those quick strikes to help boost Bryce Young's rhythm, get him into the game. The Saints must keep eyes on those deep threats and avoid broken coverages, especially on the third downs. Now, the Saints, we all know this. The Saints love to play. They play the zone. They play the zone the majority of the time. The majority gave 90% or 100% of the time. Are they out there? They probably playing zone like 90% or 85%, something like that. It's a high rate. They love the zone. So with that zone defense, a lot of times they keep the safeties back, and that gives areas in the holes in the zones that you could throw to. Is Bryce Young be able to take advantage of that? That's something that we have to keep an eye out on as well. But we must limit those big plays and keep everything out front. We have to also contain him and not allow him to leak out like we did with Baker Mayfield last week. That's another thing. Number three key to victory, sustain the consistent third down offense. New Orleans has one of the lowest ranked offenses, and converting early downs will be critical. Remember last week, we converted on our first drive. We went down the field and scored a touchdown. Problem was, so did the Buccaneers. So if the Saints, the second drive, the third drive, fourth drive, all those drives were funky drives, meaning they didn't go anywhere. And then later on, after 3 or 4 drives, we finally did something positive. We have to be able to put drives together. Now, if you have 9 to 11 drives a game, you want to at least try to have at least 3, 4, or 5 of them. I would say half the drives is meaning you're doing really positive stuff, but at least 3 drives that you want you're going to get at least 9 to 11, maybe more a game. You want to at least have at least 3 drives a game where you convert, and a lot of these other drives don't happen, like I said before, because the Saints always have some type of miscue or a turnover to sustain their drives. They have some pretty positive starting drives, and the turnover happen, a fumble, an interception, a miscue, a false start, a drop pass on third down, quarterback holding on to the ball too long in a third down play, something to that degree that always end up stealing the thunder of the drive. So we kind of fix that. We got to sustain these drives. We got to be able to, sustain and just be consistent on those drives, especially third down offense. We have to be special on these third down offenses. And last week, the Saints did well in the red zone, and they improved in the second half on third down. That is important. That's how you end up winning games. Number 4, keep the Panthers offense off the field. Time of possession matters, even though the Panthers average over 30 minutes a game. And because they run the ball, they're really good at trying to sustain and keeping you out there by running the ball on you, right? They got some thumpers on that side. They like to run at you on from the offensive side. But the Panthers, we got to keep them off the field. That kind of rattles up their chemistry. We can't let them sit on the ball. We can't sit them to have long, sustained drives. That'll minimize Carolina's scoring opportunities. The Saints defense has to be solid, ranking better than the Panthers offense. We have to be able to put things together where we keep them off the field. And when they're on the field, we keep Bryce Young, off balance. We blitz them. We show them different looks. And the Saints, the way they did in the Carolina game, Coach Staley, the defensive coordinator, did a wonderful job in controlling Bryce Young, giving him different looks. And his adjustments have become, to me, looking at as the tape develops on Staley early on, it wasn't all that, but he's learned the defense more so than Kellen's learned his offense. And you could tell he got his players that he put on the field that'll help him play. You can actually see he's learned his defense better than Kellen's learned his offense. And what I mean by that, he knows how to use Chris Rump. He knows how to use Alontae Taylor. He knows how to use Kool-Aid McKinstry now. He's starting to learn that. He's learning how to use Cam Jordan in that offense. He's learning how to move guys in and out, like he switched Danny Stutzman with Pete Werner and get those guys in and out of there. He's using his backup cornerbacks and DBs. You see Burgess out there. Sometime you see the other big cornerback, number 43, he'll come out there. So you seeing him mix his player personnel up. He's gotten a lot better at really doing that on defense, and his adjustments too, his second half adjustments, him throwing different looks and then just taking things away. Like the first 8 passes that Baker Mayfield had last week, Baker was on one, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. The Saints, Coach Staley took it away from him. He started throwing the ball, and now it was raining. Don't get me wrong, but it was raining when he was 8 for 8. So it was just something really nice to see his adjustments and what he did. It just changed the look of the game, and the Saints were able to capitalize offensively off of that. So we just have to keep that thing going. All right, where was I? Okay, number 4. We got to win the turnover battle. Number 5. 5.5. You got to win the turnover battle. Saints defense forced turnovers in the last meeting, including the key interceptions. Turning over Bryce Young again and recovering fumbles could swing momentum in our favor, and that's just the truth. Saints have to win the turnover battle. We got an interception last week. This week, I feel like we're going to get a couple of turnovers against them. I think we can get Bryce to give us a pick. I think we can get Bryce to give us a fumble. I think we can turn Bryce over for at least a couple of turnovers. But the key to it is once you get the turnovers, offense must then make them pay for the turnovers. That has to happen in the personage of a touchdown. If you get a short field, you have to take advantage of that. That's number 1. Number 6. Take advantage of Carolina's injuries. They're dealing with some injuries. We know J.C. Horn is questionable. He'll be a game-time decision on the report as it's going into the season. So attacking these mismatches. And remember, we had Chris Olave to attack that side, and he was able to get a deep touchdown and balled in Carolina. And that was the previous last year. He got carted out of there, but he made their home his home, how he played in the first one. We got to continue that going forward. You got to take advantage. Number 7, effective red zone execution. Both teams have struggled consistently scoring in the red zone. Saints have to convert trips into touchdowns instead of field goals. That efficiency wins tight divisional games. Now, we do have an extremely rookie-type kicker in Charlie Smith. Got rid of Groupie. And a lot of times, Kellen Moore would be more inclined to see if he can get it. Now, if we're in 4th down territory, and depending on how far we are, I can see him deciding to make that move and put some stuff together. But the red zone, Saints did much better this past week. They got to do better and build on that every week. That's the key to winning. Getting down to the green zone. I call it the green zone. I take the red zone away from it. Getting down to the green zone, because that's where the money is made, touchdowns and all this kind of stuff. Getting down there, that's how you end up winning the game. Number 8, special teams impact. Good field position, avoid big returns. Saints been doing a decent job, above decent job, I'm going to say good job, but a much better job on returns, on kickoffs, some punts, and they've done a better job. They've helped set, like that first touchdown drive the Saints had against the Buccaneers was set up by a 50-yard return by the return. I think with Mason Tipton set it up, and the Saints were able to capitalize off a short field. That is big because that's what your offense can do. Not only could they just kick field goals, but they also can have an impact in setting your offense up for what I call easier paydays. Like, you don't have to have this long march. If I can get you set up at their 40-yard line, man, that makes all of the difference in the world. Trust and believe. And also, this has to be, the Saints have to continue to keep doing that. And Charlie Smith, who hit one, missed one, this guy has to kind of find his rhythm. Got a big leg here, but we're going to need him to kind of be consistent going for the rest of the season if he wants to be on this team next year. Number 9, stay disciplined and avoid penalties. This is a big one, right? Because you got this division game. They often come down to these little small margins. Saints must avoid these self-inflicted penalties that I talked about. Penalties that stall out drives or give the Panthers an opportunity. Like in the Tampa Bay game when the Saints had them stop, and then on the next play there was a defensive pass interference because Quincy Riley ended up getting to the wide receiver too early, and that caused the pass interference that allowed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to set up and get further down the field. And I think they scored on that drive. So we can't allow that to happen. We can't give this is our building now. We can't have false start in our own building. We can't have none of that. Saints have to bottle up the energy that they played with in this Tampa Bay Buccaneers game in Tampa Bay in the rain, and they have to manufacture and reproduce and replicate that for the game against the Carolina Panthers. Fam, you ain't got nothing to play for. Your team is not going to be in the playoffs. All you can do is just have fun and play your heart out, right? Give them all and play the role of spoiler. Finish strong. We can win. We have all these teams. All these teams are bad teams. Not Carolina. Carolina's not a bad team. They're actually in position for a playoff run. This is the toughest team record-wise we'll play. After that, it's the Jets, who are bad, the Titans, who are bad, and also the Falcons, who are bad. So we got 3 teams. The Saints could very well run the table here. They can finish out with a 5-game winning streak here. They really can. If we play the way we did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we can win out here. Is it possible? We'll see, but they very well can. I mean, they very well can. It's like, who's worse than us? Is the Jets or the Titans? Who's the better of the worst teams? With the Saints, if they hold on and handle their business, stay disciplined, avoid penalties, not only can they beat Carolina, they can beat the rest of the teams that's remaining. And of course, the final key, right? Get early defensive pressure. Consistent pressure on Bryce. That stops Carolina's rhythm. That force those quick decisions that lead to turnovers. Something the Saints defense can exploit. And remember, like I said, Staley does this all the time. Coach Staley has found a way to get pressure, whether he's sending a line in there, whether he's sending Demario Davis on blitz. We're starting to see Cam get loose. We're seeing Carl Granderson return with his pressure. We're seeing guys starting to get loose. The problem with the Saints is containment. Not so much getting to the quarterback, but it's the containment aspect, which Bryce Young has wheels where he can leak out. But we have to pay attention to that. That's the whole thing. We can't bring the pressure and allow room and lanes for him to escape out and run that will not serve you. And then, of course, additional keys, just for the hell of it, just to throw out that to you. We can take the momentum that we gathered from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, because it wasn't the fact that you were lucky, right? We know we beat Carolina 17-7, I think it was, in the first matchup. That was super cool. But the reality on the other side is we can then take what we've gathered from that game, bring it into the Carolina game. We're not going to overlook Carolina, because that's not where we are right now. We're not good enough to say we can overlook teams. So the Saints are not going to do that. Being able to this is the thing too. There is no need to use the RPO with Taysom anymore. The Tyler Shuck, and this is something I talked about on Patreon. If y'all not a member of Patreon, y'all want to study the film with us, y'all can feel free to join the Patreon. The link in the description section below. Also, it's for YouTube membership, but I do special broadcasts on the team, on Sports Period on Patreon that I'm doing that you won't see on this page. You have to join the Patreon. But nonetheless,